Hello everyone, I'm Leela, and welcome to your DebtCircle Sundown brief. Here's your complete update from today's Indian debt markets. Let's begin with the top 5 highest yield listed corporate bonds. Monado Financial Services Private Limited topped the list with a yield of 17.00% and a trade value of 35.00 lakhs. Another issuance from Monado Financial Services Private Limited offered a yield of 15.50%, with a trade value of Rs 5.00 lakhs. Best Capital Services Limited delivered a yield of 15.50% with a trade value of 150.00 lakhs rupees. Akara Capital Advisors Private Limited recorded a yield of 15.20% with a trade value of Rs 8.80 lakhs. Unifins Capital India Limited offered a yield of 15.00% with a trade value of Rs 2.00 lakhs. Moving to the top 5 highest yield unlisted corporate bonds. FDPL Finance Private Limited led with a yield of 16.00% and a trade value of Rs 18.00 lakhs. Vadraj Cement Limited recorded a yield of 14.75% with a trade value of 100.00 lakhs rupees. Apex Homes Private Limited offered a yield of 14.00% with a trade value of 4,192.07 lakhs rupees. Navi Limited 2.07 lakhs. Navi Limited delivered a yield of 12.01% with a trade value of Rs 20.00 lakhs. Jaipur Vidyut Vitran Nigam Limited recorded a yield of 9.00% with a trade value of Rs 60.00 lakhs. Now let's look at the mutual fund debt transactions. Gross purchases stood at 14,425.49 crore rupees. Gross sales were rupees 15,092.97 crore. Net investment came in at negative rupees 667.48 crore. Net investment for July month to date stood at negative rupees 8,056.040 crore. Next, the foreign portfolio investor debt market investment. Under the general limit, gross purchases were Rs 610.92 crore. Under voluntary retention route or VRR, gross purchases were 33.41 crore rupees. Under the fully accessible route or FAR, gross purchases stood at 792.45 crore. Gross sales under the general limit were 339.14 crore rupees. Under VRR, gross sales were 93.66 crore rupees. Under FAR, gross sales stood at 706.78 crore rupees. Net investment under the general limit was 271.78 crore rupees. Net investment under VRR was negative 60.25 crore rupees. Net investment under FAR stood at 85.67 crore rupees. For July month to date, net investment under the general limit was 3,946.33 crore rupees. Under VIP, net investment under the general limit was 3.54 crore rupees 46.33 crore. Under VRR, it stood at negative rupees 2,114.29 crore. Under FAR, net investment was rupees 7,233.79 crore. For the calendar year 2026 year to date, net investment under the general limit stood at 31,171 crore rupees. Under VRR, it was negative 1,820 crore rupees. Under FAR, net investment reached 43,499 crore rupees. Now the money market rates. The call rate closed at 5.24%. Tri-party repo stood at 5.13%. Basket repo was 5.17%. Special repo closed at 5.12%. Moving to the India government bond yield curve. The 1-year yield stood at 5.85%. The 3-year yield was 6.29%. The 5-year yield came in at 6.46%. The 7-year yield was 6.65%. The 9-year yield stood at 6.78%. The 10-year benchmark yield closed at 6.77%. The 15-year yield was 6.97%. The 30-year yield ended at 7.38%. Let's look at the Treasury bill yield and auction cutoff. The 91-day Treasury bill closed at 5.33%. The 182-day Treasury bill closed at 5.57%. The 364-day Treasury bill closed at 5.72%. Now for the liquidity indicators. Net liquidity injected stood at negative 1,58,876 crore rupees. The standing deposit facility or SDF stood at 1,59,077 crore rupees. The marginal standing facility or MSF stood at 1,59,077 crore rupees 7 crore. The marginal standing facility or MSF stood at 201 crore rupees. Moving to the MIBOR OIS rates. The 1-year rate stood at 5.91%. The 2-year rate was 6.10%. The 3-year rate stood at 6.19%. The 5-year rate closed at 6.36%. Now the modified MIFOR rates. The 2-year rate stood at 6.95%. The 3-year rate was 6.97%. The 4-year rate came in at 7.05%. The 5-year rate closed at 7.13%. Moving to the currency market. The US dollar against the Indian rupee closed at 96.35 rupees compared with the previous level of 96.25 rupees. The euro against the Indian rupee closed at 109.93 rupees compared with 109.74 rupees previously. The British pound against the Indian rupee closed at 129.18 rupees compared with 128.78 rupees previously. The Japanese yen against the Indian rupee remained unchanged at rupees 0.59. The Chinese yuan against the Indian rupee closed at rupees 14.21 compared with the previous level of rupees 14.18. Now, commodities and market indices. 24-karat gold with 99.9% purity closed at 14,357 rupees per 10 grams compared with 14,280 rupees per 10 grams previously. Silver closed at 2,350 rupees per 10 grams, unchanged from the previous level of 2,350 rupees per 10 grams. Crude oil settled at $85.53 per barrel, compared with the previous level of $86.51 per barrel. The Sensex closed at 77,568.44, compared with the previous close of 77,054.94. The Nifty ended the session at 24,191.95, compared with the previous close of 24,052.05. Finally, let's look at the India primary issuance corporate bond market. SI Creva Capital Services Private Limited announced an issuance of 325 crore rupees with a tenure of 25 months, carrying a coupon of 11.00% and a credit rating of India Rating and Research Private Limited A-. Navi Finserv Limited announced an issuance of 370 crore rupees with a tenure ranging from 15 to 25 months, crore with a tenure ranging from 15 months to 38 months across multiple tranches, offering coupon rates between 10.30% and 10.75%. That's all for today's DebtCircle Sundown brief. Thank you for watching. I'm Leela. Stay informed, stay ahead, and I'll see you in the next market update.